You cannot deny Trump is to the point and straight to it.
With just 48 days to go until his inauguration, Trump is letting the world know that he intends to put America first. Just yesterday, after the IDF confirmed the death of yet another Israeli-American hostage, Trump sent this message to Hamas. Quote, "There will be all hell to pay in the Middle East, and for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity, those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Release the hostages now." And after Trump threatened a 25% tariff on Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago to speak personally with the president-elect. Here's senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy reporting on how that meeting went.
I don't think it's an unjust ask.
Tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor.
I think there definitely needs to be a redistribution of fairness among these superpower countries. The U.S. has its problems, but it does carry at least the heavy financial majority burden for these countries.
To which reportedly, Kilme, there was sort of nervous laughter in the Trudeau camp. But the reality is he drew a hard line and they went down there to try to change his mind. But his mind's not changing.
You know what's kind of, I think, kind of cool is that there's nothing better than seeing someone face to face. In a time in which everyone's talking about AI, communication, text messaging, Instagram, and that's all Kennedy talks about. More on that later. Well, I will say, Justin Trudeau says, rather than go back and forth, why don't we just meet? I love the fact that he went down there and they get to hash it out right there and walk away with things. Also, Donald Trump's doing what Kayla, he did every day. He starts the day with leverage. Mm-hmm. He wakes up and goes, "Oh, you are my nominees. If you don't nominate them, we're going to do it in a recess appointment. Game on." All of a sudden, people are scrambling. Then he says, "Okay, when it comes to controlling the border, I'm not going to wait and ask."
Finally, someone does. This is what we need. The most reliable communication is face-to-face.
I'm going to tell you right away, 25% tariffs. I don't like the way you're handling it. Oh, you have a problem? Next thing you know, he's negotiating already. It makes people act. He's like, I don't have a lot of time. We're going to get this done. Bottom line is, the northern border has been a mess. If you talk to Governor Sununu, he talks about the people pouring across the border, drugs coming across the border. Guess what's happening now? They're using drone technology. They're using high-tech equipment and planes to start monitoring the northern border because they don't want any part of those 25% tariffs.
Kilme invoked you. And now let's talk about specifically as well those threats. To Kilme's point that the president-elect means and will do good on to those Hamas responsible and those who are continuing to hold our American Israeli hostages and others.
Without a doubt, he will make good on those promises, I can assure you. I listened to a fascinating talk by Wilbur Ross recently. He was the Commerce Secretary under Trump. He wrote a book. It's fascinating. And he talks about seeing the art of the deal up front when Trump was a businessman. And then he talks about the art of the deal coming into government. And what you're seeing now is the art of the deal working out with great efficacy. We saw this, as I mentioned last week, on May 30th, 2019. Trump said 5% tariff on Mexico unless you secure the border. 7 days later, what did Mexico do? They secured the border. That happened last term. Well, this term, you've got the art of the deal again. We were on this couch last Monday when Trump said, hey, tariffs are coming your way, not just for Canada, but for Mexico also. What happened? 3 days later, Claudia Sheinbaum, the head of Mexico there, got on the phone with Trump and they agreed to secure the border. What happened 5 days later? Justin Trudeau gets on a plane. I don't think he would have done that absent a Truth Social, goes to Mar-a-Lago, talks with Trump. And then what do we have from Trump? A warning to Hamas, I will obliterate you off the face of the earth, I'm paraphrasing, if you don't release the hostages. That is powerful. You know why? Hamas has been dealing with Israel. They eliminated Sinwar and Sainia, the heads of Hamas. Israel then went after Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, got him. Well, guess what? Guess who's coming in addition to Israel? A new commander-in-chief named Donald J. Trump. And if you're watching Hamas, I want you to remember two names. Al-Baghdadi, no longer on this earth. And I want you to remember another, the head of Iran, their top general, no longer with us because of Donald J. Trump.
Leadership means many things. one of which is following through.
Remember those names. Remember those examples. Soleimani is gone forever. Donald J. Trump's coming. Release the hostages.
And in addition to that, Kennedy, as President-elect Trump is showing the global world, right? He's coming out, he's sort of assuming leadership right now. But the thing is, the other world leaders are already seeing it also. So in addition to Trudeau going down there, we have, for example, French President Macron, who invited President-elect Trump to the very, very important ceremony and opening festivities for Notre Dame Cathedral, which burned savagely 5 years ago. For that event, he did not invite current President Biden. And I noted that the left-wing media sort of tried to paint it as, well, one, adulating and adoring leader is meeting another. It's actually not at all. The reality is that the globe sees President-elect Trump already as the leader, already as the commander-in-chief, and already as the representative of America that they need to do business with.
And it's interesting because you corrected yourself out of deference and protocol, saying President-elect Trump, but we've not in our lifetimes, I mean, unless someone was alive during the Cleveland administration. We haven't had a former president who's also our future president. But if we were talking about President Obama, we would call him President Obama. So I think it's appropriate to call him President Trump. I also think, for all intents and purposes, he's president right now. Yeah. He's doing far more foreign policy than the president or the vice president. A couple of weeks ago, when we were on the verge of World War III with Ukraine and Russia lobbing long-range missiles into each other's countries, the vice president had her toes in the sand in Hawaii. And, the president was wandering off in the Amazon rainforest. They probably don't want him to go into Paris because they don't want him wandering into, some sort of a Parisian red light district or a seedy neighborhood. They might be looking out for him, but for all intents and purposes, yes, he is the closest thing we have to a president right now. And I think that's giving a lot of world leaders reason to exhale. I think there is a great sense of relief. And also, back to the 51st state jab, every dinner like that, it's not a state dinner. It is still a dinner and essentially a private residence. Every dinner should be a roast. There should be jokes. I think if that's one thing the election has shown us, jokes are back. You can make fun of people and they can make fun of you right back. Everyone can laugh about it, move on, and then when it's time to get down to brass tacks and business, they can do that maturely.
I'd rather you not make fun of me. Just for the record. I don't know.
Jokes should never have been gone. It's freedom of speech. It exists for a reason, and we all have seen that.
What world you're living in?
An impossibility.
Okay.
And you talk about the sigh of relief that world leaders feel. I know I feel them, Harris, and I can't speak for those families who have hostages still remaining with Hamas, but I can only surmise that there too is hope with President-elect Trump, President Trump.
422 days to find out that your child was killed on day one, October 7th. That there's a special place in hell for these terrorists called Hamas.
Yes.
And the family, the Nutra family that I sat with a few weeks ago, it was heartbreaking because the mom was acknowledging that people here in America didn't seem to care. I can't even imagine right now. You're talking about allies in terms of Mexico and Canada. Can you imagine what our enemies are thinking right now? I mean, the trade is getting dangled. I mean, everything is going, all the things are happening. And the one thing that they have, a word that you will often hear when you interview people on other continents is they believe Trump. It's a kind of a trust based on fact of action that Biden is completely without. Part of the damage that we've seen in our relationships with countries around the world is because, well, we all know he lies. They don't trust him either. I mean, he just pardoned his son after saying over and over and over and getting other people to lie too. Oh, Russia's the hoax, blah, 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 all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. I'm going to let my kid go free. You don't think that our enemies don't see that? Because I know they see it. So for our enemies, you mentioned Soleimani and others, that Israel also now is taking out people that are our enemies. We should send them a fruit basket. We're working in concert. Now it's time to go get our people. We don't leave our people behind. It's embarrassing in this country that we have a commander-in-chief who was willing to.
That's why Donald Trump won the election, and that's why it wasn't even close. The big red wave.
Doesn't talk about him.
He doesn't even mention it. So now it's time for action. And so on behalf of those families, Trump takes action. He can't bring back people who were killed on October 7th, but he can hopefully bring back enough remains to know, just like what I witnessed in Vietnam, to know that those lives counted and will be accounted for.
And you got 4
You can
Americans
do
still
that.
there at least.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
6. And we talked to the families today.
And we know when Hamas gets pushed on them, they kill people right there, right on the battlefield, before you can get there to rescue them. But we have precision artists in our military who can go in and make a cut and come back with people and bring families, not just our own, but across the world, and bring families some closure and peace.
That's right.
Yeah, Hamas is still making payroll. How are they making payroll?
Yeah.
Who is paying them?
Really? You don't know?
Talk to the family today.
Iran.
Making
Oh my
payroll.
gosh.
Well, January 20th
Iran.
can't come fast enough, but
Like, comment, and subscribe for more.